Hey everyone, in today's video we've got the baby Marantz, the model 2015. I'm told this thing has been serviced, yet here it is on my bench. Let's take a closer look. So nearly 5 years ago I had one of these on my channel, but it wasn't like this. This one is the Mark II 2015. It's got the Dolby filter for the FM radio. This one appears to be, honestly, dang near mint. There is very little wrong with this faceplate, if anything at all. It's very clean. I don't see any big scratches at all, and the case is the same way. Hopefully it looks this good on the inside as well. We'll see what's been done. Like I said, it's on the bench for a reason. In the back, super simple. No frills at all in here. We've got tape inputs, we've got phono and aux inputs, radio antennas, and speakers. And your unswitched and switched outlets, of course. Let's plug this thing in and get a feel for how it's working. We'll go dim bulb first, turn this thing on. Got one burnt out lamp I can see, and the bulb is not lit, so we're in great shape. And now you all can see that one right there is burnt out. It looks dim over there, but if I recall correctly, the design of this is kind of bad, and it's just naturally going to be dimmer right there just because they didn't put good effort into making sure the bulbs were evenly placed. But we'll confirm that when we take this faceplate off to change the bulbs out. Now right here I've got my speaker outputs going to my load resistors. And I can check and see what's going on there with my meter. I see nothing there. And I see nothing there, which is great. This is a capacitor coupled amplifier as far as I know. I'll switch this to FM and turn on the volume. We should have some AC voltage here now. We do. We do. What does it sound like? Not bad. So let's take a listen. We're going through the stations just fine. So I can hear it going in and out of stereo, but I don't see the stereo lamp lighting up, so we know the stereo lamp is burnt out. One thing I'm noticing is if you listen to what's coming out of the speakers, we're supposed to be centered, but if I go over here we get the good signal, and I can't really get much happening on that side of the tuning meter. So the staticky right there, and all the way over there it's still good, so that's an FM alignment problem. If I switch over to aux, do we hear everybody's favorite song? We do. It's just quiet because the phone volume was down. And we hear a dirty control. So, if this has been serviced, that might mean they cleaned the faceplate and didn't bother cleaning the controls. And I can hear static in the selector too. So we've got replace the lamps, clean the controls, and do an FM alignment. Let's pull the cover and see if we find anything else we need to do. And what do we got? A Marantz 2015. Tell you what, these things are just adorable. Nicely packaged, everything's kind of crammed in there. This little tiny package, but you know, there's all of it. It's a pretty cool little receiver. I like these things. There's one small thing I'm noticing. We were going to do it anyways, but look at that nice yellowed vellum paper and how the glue is beginning to fail and it's starting to peel up. So we got to replace that vellum paper there. Probably should turn this off and unplug it by now. I'll go ahead and take off this faceplate so we can get going on that. Hopefully everything comes off nicely. This is the worst part every time. Seriously, this part. God. You gotta be extremely careful with this one because of its condition. Sometimes if you take a flathead, you come in underneath here with a cloth on the faceplate, get under there just right, kind of hold it straight, twist, and then it'll come off. No scratches. Nice. And there. Just a very small twist of the screwdriver got that one. And how could we forget? A little balance knob. And these little guys are 8mm. Sometimes they're loose, sometimes they're not. But you want to make sure you don't push this in all the way. You want to make sure you just kind of not touch the faceplate, but just enough so you've got enough on the bolt. Because if you just jam this into the faceplate and twist it, you're going to scratch the faceplate. And we don't want to scratch this faceplate. That would be very sad. All 4 of those took barely anything to crack loose. This should slide off, and it does. This is an interesting little touch here. I don't know if this is factory. I don't recall seeing this on the other one I worked on, but I don't know. On this side of the receiver, we've got our speaker control switches. We'll just get some deoxit D5 in there, this stuff. And there's a little hole right there we can just lightly spray in there. And this solvent stuff tends to really, I don't know, wick itself in there pretty well. No need to go crazy. Like if you see this kind of moving around and kind of oozing out of other places, you know you've made it in there, and it's going to clean those switch contacts inside of there. Underneath it is the main speaker switch. Same deal. This one right here is the selector switch. It's a little different story. We're going to want to take the knob that is for our selector switch. We'll put it on there so we can actually turn it easily. And then inside of here there's a bunch of wafers with little contacts on them. You want to take your nozzle and kind of put it around here, just where those contacts are making contact on all of the wafers. This one, it's tough to be clean with it. You're probably going to get a little bit messy with this. You'll have some solvent going all over. I like to get the other side too, because there are contacts on both sides actually. Then right here in the front, there's the little detents with the ball bearings in them. I like to just give the tiniest little squirt on those just to make the switch move a little bit smoother. Obviously you want a different kind of lubricant there, but you know, it'll work. Now coming over here, this is our volume potentiometer. We'll just take the selector knob and just move it over here. And then we're not going to use the D5 for this one. We're going to use the F5, the green can. And there's little openings on both sides, here and here, on both, what's the term? This is a dual, what? Potentiometer? Gang? I can't remember. So I'll give one good squirt in here, one good one in here, one good one in here, and one good one in here. And that should kind of permeate through there. Obviously the best way to clean one of these is to take it all the way apart, but I really don't like doing that. So I tend to simply not do it unless I've got big problems. Making our way uptown here, we're in the middle of the unit, and you can see the balance slider switch, and underneath all of that are our 5 push button switches. And I just realized you might all enjoy that light. Hopefully that makes it a little bit better. Makes it better for me, that's for sure. Let's do the push button switches first. That's easy. It's just like those 2 switches I showed you earlier. And for the balance slider, it was clean. I don't always touch these, but if I do have to touch them, I use this Fader F100, and I just kind of stick it right through. There's like an opening right here where you can see where this thing moves around. And I just stick the nozzle in there, give it a squirt, and one is pretty much all you need. Just put that in there and let it do its magic. And the reason you're not using this stuff is because there's special lubricants inside of here that the solvents in here will dissolve. So you want to make sure you use the non-solvent pure deoxit stuff for the balance slider. And then our last 2 controls up here, minus the power switch, are the tone controls, bass and treble. So we'll need a 12 millimeter, nope, 11 millimeter. Yep, sometimes you can get them by hand. Yep. Got those by, yep, easy enough. Probably tighten them by hand also. You've got a nut and a washer, so just pay attention to the washer. And this may slide out, or we need to remove this shield to make room. Had one wire in our way. And there's our tone controls. These guys can be a little bit tougher, but you can see there's a little opening right there and there. You can take the F5 nozzle and just kind of sneak on in there on both sides. Got a little excited for that one. Now that those are cleaned, we can slide this back in. We'll just line up the shafts with the holes on the chassis. And bingo, almost. Yep, there it is. Reinstall your nuts and washers and you're good to go. And I almost forgot to put this little shield back. And we have a visitor. He's feeling crazy and restless. Isn't that right, Hodor? How are you doing today, big guy? What are those there? Those aren't yours. Hey, you want to play with your favorite toy? Yes, he does. He's very skittish right now. He must have just taken a dump or something. Oh boy. Oh yeah. There he goes. You know what's funny about him? He's missing his 2 bottom teeth. One of them was surgically removed. The other one just fell out because he's old. All right, big guy. I'll see you later. Bye. And the whole thing with these is just don't break your tuner pointer and don't break the string. Just gotta be careful. I think this face is purely glued on. There's nothing else fastening it, so it's just gonna be a very slow, tedious, and nerve-wracking experience getting it off without breaking it. So I'll start with one of these up top to see if we can start breaking that glue joint very slowly. It looks like the glue on here is still pretty soft, so it won't be so bad. So we're pretty loose at this point, which should be able to just pry straight down. Listen to all that glue fail. Yep, we're good here. Get this paper to pull through all the way. There it is. And it would appear that this electrical tape is factory. Probably to keep this from being shown through the glass when you're looking at it. And like I said, there's those 4 lamps, and it just doesn't quite fill that enough right there. That's kind of a shame. A little bit of design negligence, I'd call it. Here's a better straight-on view of that negligence per se. It just doesn't fill up the entire display. Like, you know, you can see this is how far it goes out. You've got a whole dead spot over here when you have characters right there. Yeah, whatever. So for getting the lamps out, I like to use a little tiny flathead screwdriver. You just kind of come up on the side here. You can pry and then not drop them in theory, but you get the idea. I was looking back at my old video, and to change the fuse lamp on this meter here, it's actually the 5th lamp on that piece right here. And the way I did that was I loosened the circuit boards behind it and was able to get enough room to sneak in there and pull it out. And then there's this. To get a new one in is probably going to be really difficult. First, let's pull this guard for the tuning string. Then the lamp housing is held on with 4 screws. You've got one right there. There's 2 underneath this, and then there's the 4th one right in there. You can see the board is loose. That's what I need to get into. Let's move our meter to the place where not working. So if I pull this as close as I can, get it lined up, and then push it with my finger. I look inside of there. I can see that that is a seated lamp, and it looks like you can too, so we've got it. Now we can kind of slide this thing back in and put the screws back in. I'm sorry, but I have a little correction to make. I did not need to remove these 2 screws in the middle here. These go to the stereo lamp holder. We only needed to remove 1 screw and 2 screw over here to get the lamp assembly loose. But that's okay because stereo lamp is burnt out and we'll need to do something about that. So let's see, can we slide this all the way through? A little bit. So let's start by desoldering these pins right here. This is an 8 volt 40 milliamp lamp. do I have one? And I do. So let's slip this guy right in here. I'll hold it in flat and I'll bend the leads behind it. I'll solder one lead just a little bit, because what I want to do is I want to push this flat on the base while this solder is hot. And that way I know it's sitting perfectly flat and perfectly straight in here. So I've got that one done. Now I can go ahead and get the other one, and then I can finish this one off. Looks good to me. Let's shove this back in and reassemble. The most interesting predicament I have with this amplifier is this vellum paper right here. Now the first 2015 video I did, this meter did not have any vellum paper on it, and I never added vellum paper because, well, I never had it. But you know, I can get this off obviously, and this must come off because it's yellowed and it's going to distort the color. Short of taking like this entire front assembly off and completely disassembling it, I'm not really sure how I'm going to replace this paper. That might unfortunately be what I have to do, and that's a lot of work. So by taking these two screws out, I can get this thing to move up and down. I was trying to pull it back and then I noticed this little tab is stuck in here, so we need to remove this chassis bracket. Looks like I have one more screw down here, and this might set us free. I'll go ahead and undo the preamplifier bass and treble controls because I think that we are pulling on them right now. Guess we'll try the power switch. Okay, so that buys us quite a bit more room. Get the headphone jack next. Of course, this whole assembly is glued up here, but I think I've got enough space here to see what's happening with the vellum paper. Okay, so here's what's going on. We've got the vellum paper. It goes down the back, and then it's going to wrap underneath the bottom face of the meter. I can only pull the housing back so much, but it exposes the bottom side there. So I'll have to remove that foam and then remove the vellum paper from underneath there, and then I can replace the vellum. And that is the removal of the vellum paper. I'll tell you what, folks, I am not installing new paper the way this is from the factory. I'm going to do something a little bit easier, because that is the worst vellum removal I've ever seen. So I've got a little template here, and you can kind of tell what I used this paper for last. So let's start by tracing. And there you have that. And you know what? I don't really know how I'm going to get this in here. But I'll start by folding here. Fold it. That way. I'll start like this. Okay. Yeah. Make a humanoid robot do that, Elon. That'll never happen though. There's no money in what I'm doing right now. Let's take a little bit of tacky glue right there. And we'll just glue that on. I'll have to come back and fix this as the glue cures a little bit, so it's just going to be like that for a little while. Okay, glad that's over. I'm going to do some reassembly now. I could have just not replaced the vellum and just left it blank, because, you know, there are some Marantz receivers where they did not install the vellum, they just left it raw like that. But, you know, while I'm in there. And that reminds me, we haven't even taken the time to install our fresh fuse lamps yet. Plug this in and give it a quick little test. Got Get some lamp action going there. Can we find a stereo FM signal? Yes, we can. Stereo lamp works. You'd love to see it. Oh, but there's one more lamp to replace, and that would be the tuner pointer. These are always very terrifying to replace because you don't want to break that, but it's really, really easy to. And it looks like some wonderful person put a bunch of glue on that side. So maybe we'll have a really bad time. I don't know. But there is a little locking tab on each side for this style. I almost prefer the really old taped style ones because you didn't have to worry about, you know, undoing a plastic tab, which we all know can end pretty poorly. Alright. That was not so bad. And then this all comes out. I'll put this back so we don't break it. Then here's our lamp. Just pull out this metal thing. This is what we're going to replace. So we got to turn the unit around to get to this one. So we got this little metal tie here. We'll undo that. And then we see we need to desolder at 2 places. One there and one there. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully sneak the Hago in here. And try not to melt the tuner string. Okay, so that's out. We'll come down here and get this one out. So now that the solder is removed, we can come in with the iron tip, heat again, and then that will get the wire loose. Here's our old and our new. We'll take these guys and see what wire length we need. So I'll go, another 2 inches and cut right there. Now I just twisted these a little bit. I'll go right ahead and wrap these back around the proper posts. And then we can put this lamp back in the bulb housing. Guess we'll give it a dab of glue like they did from the factory. And, well, before I put that cap back on, I'm going to test it. I don't want to do that again. It does work. Put this on. Here's that one. The other side is snapped in. Now we can get this piece back on. I do want to point out one very adorable little attention to detail. They put a little felt cap on top of this capacitor here so that you don't have metal on metal with the top of the capacitor touching with that. That is hilarious. There's a lot of little tiny things in this receiver that are kind of like that. You gotta watch out for them. So now we gotta do the vellum paper for this thing and get it reattached here. This electrical tape contraption is impressive. Maybe I'll reuse the same tape. Maybe I'll try something different. I don't know. But that's not something I've ever seen before on a Marantz. Got it a little small, but that'll work. I will do a quick test fit before I do any gluing, because if you watched the last video, I did make the choice to do like a double vellum paper. I want to throw this in, take a look, and see how I like it. Let's try that out. There are some dull spots. Yeah, I think I will do the double vellum on this one also. So there's that. Then I'll slide this in. It gets dimmer, but it gets properly diffused. So I'd rather have it that way. That looks right to me. So I noticed that the factory electrical tape actually fits back in quite nicely. It's got a nice fold in it, and it still sticks to the metal in here. So I think I'm going to retain the factory, whatever the heck this is. And then down here, we need to glue these papers onto here. So I'm going to take this piece of scrap paper. This is what I did in the last video. I just took a bunch of glue, put it like right here, I've had this glue for like over 10 years. Still plenty left. And then I'm just gonna take this and apply it as if I'm like painting it. While that's drying, we're gonna do the FM alignment. And I'll be doing this every once in a while. So if you haven't seen me do this before, this is the SG165. This is kind of your intro, lower level FM alignment machine. It's an FM generator. Basically what's coming out of this cord is an FM signal, and it's 400 hertz. I'll turn the volume up. You can hear that. And then I'll turn this away. You see it's gone. I've got this set to 98. Gotta go back to 98 on here. And there you go. So that's basically what's going on here. And we're going to be able to look at this signal through the oscilloscope and see what's going on with it. And then this up here is a frequency counter. The reason I have this is that this is just some analog knob. It's not accurate. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll be taking this out, plugging the frequency counter in, and looking at that display right there and just kind of fine-tuning it exactly so I can get it right on 98. And we're gonna have to do different frequencies with this. And the first one we have to go for is 87.5 megahertz. So we're gonna go right there to 87.5, and then we'll just take this out, put this back in. Now what's going on here, we've got this cord going into here, which is basically the FM antenna hookups. We're going for the 300 ohm, and we've got the red and green on there, which is what this thingy says. I'm gonna turn the volume up, get this back on the frequency. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. And then I'm going to hit auto. And then I've got my right and left channels displayed really cleanly right there. So if I turn the volume down, it goes away. I turn it up, it comes back. So what the instructions want us to do is, we set it to 87.5. We want to have this go all the way to the end. So we're all the way at the end, and what do we have? No audio output. So we need to adjust our first adjustment point. It wants us to adjust L103, which happens to be that pink core right there. I can see just underneath that shield the number there, L103. You can see it from the other side too. And we're going to do that with a fancy tool. This is an anti-static alignment kit that I found in the trash. And we're going to use something like this. It's got like a little hexagon end to it. And will it fit? Yeah, it fits right in there. So I'm going to be turning this extremely carefully. And you're going to be looking up here at the scope, and you're going to tell me when we have maximum amplitude out of this thing. So I'm going to turn it counterclockwise. Oh, see? It's coming into view, and there it is. So we want maximum amplitude here. Call right about there, maximum amplitude. So we've done the first step. Now what it wants us to do is throw our tuning cap all the way to the high frequency end. All the way, just like that. We're going to set our generator to 108.5. And again, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the only reason we have this frequency counter here and I'm doing all this switching is because I have crappy test equipment. I have not spent the money to buy nice test equipment. This is not normal. This is not what you should be doing. This is just what I'm doing because it's just what I have presently. And if we look up here, now that we've got the frequency set, we're almost there, but we need to turn something. Well, I cannot find C187, and I have an odd suspicion that it might be that thing right there sitting on top of the tuner cap. And if you look closely, it is soldered shut, so I don't think we're going to be turning that. Besides, the fact that we've got something on there means we're pretty close. And if I tune down, I can get it. So we're close-ish. Next, we're going to set this to 90 megahertz, and we'll tune the receiver until we see 90. It looks like I can dial right in right there. And we've got a nice clean signal at 90 megahertz. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to start decreasing the amplitude of the output signal, which is, we have X1000, X100, X10. If we go to X100, I still see it on the scope. If I go to X10, things start getting a little shaky. I'll show you. I'll go down to X10. We see our signal start to get a little less than ideal. And as I turn the microvolt output down, we lose the signal. So what we're about to do is we're about to set some coils here such that they take in the signal as strongly as possible. There's one right in there, L102. You're not going to be able to see L101, and then L105 is this one with the purple right here. So I'm going to adjust those. And we're going to see if I can get that to look any better than it does now. So here's L101. I can make it worse. I can make it a little better. So I can get a higher amplitude with L101. So I'll go for the highest amplitude. I'll move on to L102. And there, L102 seems to do some good things for us. I can adjust that such that that distortion at the bottom gets minimized. Right about there, it seems to be pretty happy. And now here's L105, the purple one. That makes it worse. Well, that makes it a lot better. Look at that. So you can see there's like a little happy medium area. So like if I go this way, the distortion comes back and the amplitude goes down. But if I go this way, I can get it all go away, but then my amplitude goes down. So I'm definitely going to make it so I have no distortion. I'm going to bring my microvolt level down, kind of make that signal a little bit worse. Yeah, and now I can play with it right here. And this is key right here. Is what I just did is I made the signal weaker, and I'm trying to make it kind of symmetric in a way. I'm going to bring it back up. See how the distortion started up there. I'm going to see if I can get it to go away. I can kind of even it out between the two almost. So that's looking a lot nicer. It used to be much worse. And then what you do is you go back and you do it all again. So I'm going to go back to the first core, 101. Let's see if I can get anything different. Not really. I think I'll leave 101 where it was. 102, again, similar situation. I think I'm good with that step. I'm happy with where that's taking in the signal. Next step is we're going to set this to 106 megahertz. We'll tune this to 106, like that. Then it wants me to turn something called CF1 and CF2. I think those might be the little screws sitting on top of the tuning cap. And those are always a little scary to turn. I mean, let's see how we're doing. We were able to get a signal pretty good on the low end when we went about here, 10x, and then brought this down to like maybe 8 or so. Let's see how we're looking up here. Not too good. Where do we have to be before we get a good signal? If I bring the X10 all the way up, go to X100. We've got a good signal at X100. Okay, the one screw, I actually can get a difference when I turn that one. So we'll get that one for best signal. I think I've got that one looking about as good as I'm going to get it. Okay, next one is easy. We're going to set a voltage to 0. We're hooking on to test point J120. It's right over there. Measuring to ground, and we're going to set our voltmeter to be 0 volts by turning coil, the upper coil of this, L107. And funny thing, there's actually 2 coils in there. You need a special tool. You need, it's the same tool, but you'll see this one end has like kind of a thick section right there. This one, it's the same size, but there's a thin section, so you can dive deep into these kinds of coils. There's a top coil and a bottom coil that you can turn with this. So it looks like we're already at 0, but I'm going to turn this top coil anyways. See if I can get a voltage out. Yeah, see? And I need to admit a little secret. Before I started doing this, I adjusted this one on my own without a voltmeter actually, so I actually got really lucky. Dang, I shouldn't have touched it. Yeah, look at this. Now I can't get it back. Okay, there we are. Yeah, I just adjusted that by looking at the meter, and I guess I must have gotten really lucky. Next, we're going to switch this to 98 megahertz. Then we're going to tune this to 98 and see that there's no issues exhibited on the multimeters. So I'm going to adjust this for maximum amplitude on the scope. And when I get that thing to say 0, this meter is dead center. So that is adjusted properly. Now remember that bottom core I was telling you about with that thing? Now we're going to go fish for that bottom core. And we're going to adjust the bottom core for minimum distortion. I interpret that as maximum amplitude, not minimum distortion. If I could just get this out. There we go. And we're still set to 0. So now we've aligned the FM. Now it's time to align the stereo separation. It tells us to have this thing set exactly how it is so that we have 0 volts over there. Watch what happens when I flip this switch. You might not be able to see it too well. Let me zoom in. When I flipped that switch, the stereo light turned on. And when I flip it down, it turns off. So what's going on there? FM stereo modulation is kind of insane, kind of super awesome. And I'm going to show you. Now that I've got this turned on, if I turn this off, I'm going to lose signal on one of my channels on the scope. So I've got that one turned off, and check this out. One of the channels went away, but you see there's still something there. What we need to do is we need to make an adjustment such that this line is perfectly straight. So that's going to mean your stereo separation is, good. So we're looking for L110 here. I found it, and I'm going to turn that and see what we get. So there, that's the wrong way. That's the right way. It would appear we can't quite get it perfect. What about the one next to it? Does that do anything? Gets it pretty close. Then we're going to adjust R153. Let's see what happens when we do that. Not much. And that's about the best we've got here. And that concludes the FM alignment. So now the real test is, let's turn the speakers back on, turn the volume up, and let's try tuning to some stations. Yeah, I think that's a little better already. Get our antenna hooked back up.
What kind of place is this? Rules about
So it's working a little bit better now. Not bad. And even better, looks like the glue is basically completely dried. And this thing is good to go. I'll need to clean that with some Windex and free it of my dirty paw prints. So I was just doing the power test, or getting ready for it. And if you look at the scope right here, that's the speaker output. We're looking at, the signal. It looks fine. I'll bring it up to clipping for you. Looks, we're going to have to adjust the symmetric clipping control, because you'll see we've got flat right there, but not right there, and that's not good. So we'll have to do that. But what I want to show you is we've got a discrepancy in output levels for my right and left channels. So right here we've got 4.46 on the left channel and 4.70 on the right channel. So that's not good. But if you look really closely, as I bring this up, you can kind of see this right channel starts to clip before the left channel. What that tells me is the power amp is equal on both sides. We've probably got a problem in the preamp. So I go down here to the preamp, and long story short, I figured out that this and this are the outputs, and this are the inputs. So we have an input of 0.68 and 0.67, 0.68, those are the same. But then we look at our outputs, we've got 0.09 on one side and 0.8786 on the other. So I think that might be where our discrepancy is stemming from. I was playing with the tone controls a little bit, saw some weird stuff, but then I looked at the board, and look right there. That's not right. There is a cold solder joint on the base control. So I'm gonna flow that real quick. I'm not saying this is gonna fix everything, but it's definitely not right. Man, there was like no solder on that thing. I turned it back on. Let's see if we've got the same things going on here. We've got the 0.86 output there. Did I just get it? No way. No way. No way. Yeah, way. That was it, folks. Yeah, look at that. 4.63, 4.6465. That was easy. I thought I was gonna have to recap stuff. That is awesome. I am really glad I found that. And now it is time for the audio adjustment or power amplifier adjustment. So first we're gonna set the bias. The way you do that is you measure across that resistor and then adjust that trimming pot right there. Then you measure across that resistor over there, and then you adjust that trimmer pot. And the other two trimmer pots right over there and over there, that's what we'll adjust for the symmetric clipping. I'll do this for all of you since you always get annoyed with me that I don't put it in millivolts. We want 7.5 across these resistors. But we're going to want to be in DC. So right there we got 15, that is too high. And here we got 20, which is too high. I'd say that heatsink is a little warm. See, I don't have any really good way to get my probes on there, so I just gotta do it this way. And then just kind of get all crazy with it. So there's our 7.5 right there. Then I'll move over to this one. This is not as sketchy as it looks, folks. There's little heat shrink thingies on these leads. I'll be able to kind of securely jam the probes in there, and they're not going to slip. In theory. Yeah, calling it 8. That should be just fine. Let's check the other side again. Still at 8. Alright, that should be fine. And now, the final check. Symmetric clipping. I'll adjust the right channel, which is in blue. See if we got nice symmetric clipping there. Then I'll adjust the left, which is in yellow. There, we can make it look real bad there. I think that's about right. Oh, and how can I forget? I'm too distracted. We are putting out about 13 volts, maybe 12.9 if we want to be conservative. That there is about 20 watts per channel. Not bad for something supposed to be putting out 15. There you have it, folks. A serviced Marantz 2015. I've got the lights turned off so we can see just how nice that looks. Love to see it. And there's our FM. Tuning right in. Excellent. I will say the unevenness looks a little more obvious in the camera view than it actually is in person. That second layer of vellum paper really helps with that. So if you're going to do one of these, just use 2 sheets. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. This thing is really neat. I just caught up with the X-Ray Tony B video of this. He did one a few months ago. Unfortunately, I won't be coddling the baby here, but I will feed it some deoxide, I suppose. Yeah, that's a good baby. The baby Marantz. I didn't realize how rare these things are until I watched his video, which makes it even more interesting that I've had 2 on my channel, and you know, I don't have that many videos. So I like these things. I think they're really cool, and seeing one in such pristine condition, I'm really happy to have the opportunity to service it and make it work as well as it looks. Thank you to my subscribers, and thank you to my members who get early access to videos just like this one. I'll see you in the next one.